Hi everyone. It's 10:30 in the morning here in Seoul. And I'm doing this live stream as I'm sitting in the courtyard here. Spring weather seems to be in full swing. I'm rocking my DNC fraud lawsuit t-shirt. Thank you, Sarah Friels. I know the slog is difficult, but thank you so much for the t-shirt. And I'm waiting for a crab shack to open. But I decided to do a live stream because I was on Twitter, and this Twitter follower named Socks Mega March, I guess, got offended because I was criticizing U.S. foreign policy. And I think he got defensive because although Americans criticize U.S. foreign policy plenty, when some people feel that it comes from abroad, they get defensive. And I think he commented and said, you know, Americans spilt a lot of blood trying to bring order and protect other countries. Yeah, they hate us until they need us. And I think we have to distinguish. He may have served in the military, he may have family in the military, and I think we have to distinguish criticizing U.S. foreign policy as equating with attacking, you know, Grandpa Joe or Uncle Willie who came back from the war. And let me just tell you, my husband's grandfather actually lied about his age to serve in the army because he heard the cry for enlistment and he wanted to join the World War II armed forces. Okay? So when we criticize U.S. foreign policy, we're not doing it in an effort to shit on the individual soldiers or the GIs who left their families, sometimes at a very, very tender age. I believe Jared's grandpa was something like 17 when he enlisted. It's kind of like having family that, maybe you have family who works at a CVS pharmacy, and when people criticize the pharmaceutical industry for the opioid crisis and not doing enough, you're like, you know, oh yeah, you hate us until you need medicine to get well. Well, I'm sorry. Criticizing the pharmaceutical industry does not mean that we're criticizing individual pharmacists that are giving us our pills. So please, okay, just calm down. Not just to Socks Trump March, but to everyone else who gets defensive about it. So I saw a really, really interesting article here in the Korea Times. So we went to a bodega and all the newspapers are in Korean, but there was one, the Korea Times, that was in English. And so Jared bought a copy for about 50 cents and he was reading it. And there's a really interesting article about Jeju Island. Okay. This happened many, many years ago, and I think it provides a window into the complex nature of U.S. meddling in foreign wars and how 2-3 generations later people feel about it. So Jeju Island is an island off the coast of South Korea, and from the article, it seems like it had at that time, it had one of the highest educated populations in South Korea. And what happened is, at that time, South Korea got a president called Lee Syngman Rhee. My mother always used to curse him out. She would call him 그놈의 이상마이 새끼. He was quite a son of a bitch, apparently. And he was a U.S. puppet. Now, does this sound familiar? Puppet regimes? And what he did was he went into Jeju Island and he massacred a significant portion of the population. Now, be that as it may, this article came out yesterday. This is 2018. The events in this story happened well before, I guess, even I was born. But I want to show you the article because I think it shows that, you know, in these foreign lands where American soldiers spilt their blood, and we're not talking about the GIs who spilt their blood here. My mother told me a lot of stories about the soldiers who died. We're talking about U.S. foreign policy. You know, like criticizing pharmaceutical companies. And I'll show you the article. Okay. This is the Korea Times. Came out Tuesday, March 27. Talks about the 1948 massacres, okay? And I'm just going to scroll down so you could read the article if you so choose. Why is this not focusing? Please. Oh well. I'll take pictures of the article so you can read it. But basically, to this day, they commemorate all the people who died under that puppet regime. But I want to read out in a particular paragraph. This gentleman named Yang, he said, he also called out the U.S. for its part. Quote, though massacres were committed under Rhee, the U.S. military provided weapons as shown by the carbines used. General William Lynn Roberts, chief of the U.S. military advisory group to the ROC, lauded the killings in a letter sent to the Korean government in December 1948, end quote. So I say this because it doesn't seem like anything has changed. American soldiers are sent abroad to feed the war machine. Puppet regimes are set up, and civilians in other countries are bombed, burned, massacred, assassinated, civilians. Okay? And there was a story in there about how they killed an 8-year-old boy. And when the mother said, "Why are you killing my son?" they said, "Better now than later." When Jared told me that he read that, you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of that mafioso in Sicily in The Godfather. Remember? They kill all the children too, little children. Okay? So when you see journalists claiming that Korea, South Korea, and Japan are our vassal countries of the U.S., I don't know how true that is. I think most people just want to be, I don't know, I think most people want to be left alone. But we have quite possibly the biggest military in the world, and it needs to be fed. So whose bodies are going to feed it? Interesting question, isn't it?